We're going to go ahead and start our meeting. I want to welcome everybody to our first test coordinator support group that we have created just for you guys. Kinsey, will you go to the next slide? So this is our meeting agenda. We're just going to cover these things. We're leaving a long time, hopefully, at the end for any kind of discussion or questions that you guys might have. But we're just going to go over the survey that you all filled out and talk about kind of how this is going to work. We're going to look at some test security required training, the program deadlines that are coming up for September, and we'll do that every month so that you kind of are on top of what's expected and what's coming up. We're going to look at organizing the assessment year, and then, like I said, we'll have time for discussion and questions. Okay? Kinsey? Awesome. Okay, so this is being recorded. We will post it to Moodle, and it will also have a link in the listservs for anybody that needs to see it that maybe wasn't able to join us at this time. Based on what you guys said in your survey, over half of you responded that you wanted to meet once a month, so we will be doing that. And then almost 60% said that Wednesday is the best day and between 9 and 10 Eastern. We're a little bit crazy here in Indiana because some of us are on Central Time and some of us are on Eastern, so 9 a.m. Eastern seems to be the best. And of the topics that we listed in that initial what would you like to hear about, 75% of you wanted to hear about maintaining accurate records, and then another 69% wanted training expectations to be clarified. 68 wanted to talk about accommodations and get some clarity there. And then 65% wanted to review the deadline. So that's kind of how we got our agenda for today. All right, Kinsey. So this slide is the list of who we are, the Office of Student Assessment. There are a few of us that are on this call. So at this time, I'll ask you to just kind of turn on your camera and say hi and say who you are and what you do. I'll start with me. I'm Tammy Wilbanks. I'm the one that sends you all the emails. I'm so sorry. So if you miss a deadline or if something's coming up or you haven't completed your quiz in Moodle, I'm the one that generally calls. If there's a problem during testing and we have to do some sort of an investigation or we need to talk about data forensics or something like that, that usually comes from me as well. But my role is primarily to support you guys, support the STCs, CTCs, the TAs with any questions or like facilitate getting you guys into Moodle or whatever it is that you need. So that's who I am. Kinsey, would you like to go next?
Yes. So I am Mackenzie Conrad. I'm a communications specialist here on the assessment team. So I talk to a lot of you I know through the inbox. So it's nice to put a face to the name. But yeah, same as Tammy, if you do ever need support, accessing systems, anything like that, feel free to reach out or email our general inbox as well. And usually I'll respond to that too.
Awesome. We also have Allie Traficante. Would you like to say hello? Oh, we can't hear you. Hang on, Allie. We can't hear you.
I was muted. I
Oh,
apologize.
there you go.
Rookie mistake. My name is Allie Traficante. I am the Accessibility and Accommodation Specialist here at the Indiana Department of Education. So I'm here to support you and make sure that everyone has clarification when it comes to accommodations given to statewide assessments. So please feel free to reach out and let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to assist and provide any clarification.
Awesome. We also have Jen Wu. Jen, would you like to say hey?
Okay, sorry. My voice is a little scratchy today. My name is Jennifer Wu. I am the assessment specialist for WIDA, and there's an error on the slide here. I also am the NAEP state coordinator. So if you have any questions about either of those programs, you can reach out to me. I know there's a lot of questions about WIDA and Screener and things like that this time of year, so I'll be around for the Q&A section later if you have specific questions about that.
Awesome. And I know that I see our Director of Assessment, Lynn Schimmel, is on here. Lynn, would you like to say hi?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lynn Schimmel, Director of Student Assessment, and I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited that you came to join this, and I want to share that prior to coming to DOE, I was in your spot as a CTC for 19 years. So definitely know what you're going through and definitely want to be here to help you. So thanks again for joining us today.
Awesome. Is there anybody from DOE that I missed? I'm trying to scroll the participants to see.
I'm here, Tammy.
Oh, Emer Towler, would you like to say hi?
Hi, good morning. I wish it was the afternoon.
Right.
My name is Emer Towler. I am the Senior Research and Innovation Specialist, and I also am the iLearn Biology Program Lead.
Yes, Emer's been working on the new science standards, so she's been a very busy girl, just saying. Okay, was there anybody else, or are we good to move on to the next slide?
I see Michelle has joined us.
Okay, Michelle, and I just heard Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you guys fight it out. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Kemper, and I am currently the formative assessment specialist. And I will be changing roles down the way. But if you still have current questions with regards to formative, that's me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Mary?
And I'll just say hi to everyone really quick. Mary Williams, I'm Assistant Director for Assessment, and want to echo with the team that we're really happy that we can help support you. That's what we feel like we're here for. We want to be a support and help. So great to see everyone.
Yes. Okay, so that's who we are. That's who you call and email, and that's who answers. So there you go. Now you know we got a face with a name type thing going on. Kinsey, will you hit the next slide? We're going to just talk for just a second about what's most pressing, and that would be your test security and integrity training that is coming up. The next slide will show you. There it is. Okay, so if you think about a pyramid, you guys are at the apex. I have that I monitor over 700 corporations within the state of Indiana, and each one of those corporations has a CTC. And that is who we talk to. That is who gets into Moodle. That's who we train. And then from there, it is your responsibility to, like, some schools maybe have 20 staff members, and so you are the CTC and the STC. But some corporations might have 2,000 employees and 15 different buildings. So it is your responsibility as the CTC, after you receive training, to break that down for your group of STCs so that they can then go into their buildings and they can train the TAs, the proctors. They can, for test security training, everybody gets it, everybody but the bus driver. Anyone who's going to have contact with those children in school or in a school setting or any kind of educational, like tutoring and all that, everybody needs to be presented with this test security and integrity training just so they understand kind of the rules of what's going on and the expectations. And all of that is fast approaching, which is why some have been getting emails from me this week. Sorry. You have 2.5 more weeks until that's due. Once you complete that training and you have everybody sign the integrity agreement, you're going to keep those on file. And then in the event that you're monitored or something happens and we need to do an investigation, we're going to ask to see that, that you trained your staff and that everyone signed it. So we'll call for those. You can have them digitized if you want to put them, somewhere, or if you want to keep a paper copy. That's totally your purview, but that's kind of the expectation for that. And like I said, we have about 2.5 weeks until September 30th. The deadline comes in for everybody to have completed their test security training and sign their agreement. Kinsey? Okay, and so then this is just kind of an idea of the different required trainings. So if you look at the first one, the test integrity, which I just discussed, is due September 30th for everybody in the district. And then the next type of training that you'll see are the pre-test workshops. So before we give any tests, whether it's an iLearn, iRead, SAT, any of those tests, IDOE will put out some sort of a pre-test for the CTCs. And that's basically just to kind of let let you know this is the type of test this is. It's timed or untimed. It's a CAT or it's a fixed form. It has multiple segments or whatever the situation is, just so you kind of understand a little bit more about what it is that we're measuring and how we're going to go about doing that. And then you will present that information to the people that it applies. So like if you have iRead 3, you don't need to teach your high school teachers about that because it's only pertains to 3rd grade. So you kind of decide who needs to hear it and make sure that those people are trained. Also underneath that, you'll see the accommodations training, because in every test that we give, the accommodations are just a tiny bit different. It might have a different name, or it might be applicable differently, or what have you. So we want to make sure that with every test, not only do they understand how to administer that test, but they understand the accessibility items that are available to kids, and have all their IEPs up to date and tied and all that wonderful stuff. After that, then you have to make sure that your TAs go into TIED for Cambium's test administration certificate. We don't give certificates in IDOE, and we don't monitor anybody except the CTCs. It is your responsibility at that point to go in and make sure that everybody has completed their training and they have a valid certificate and they know how to give the test, and we're going to just do as smoothly as we can. For College Board is a whole different animal. Like they tell you how you have to have your kids sitting. They're very, very strict, but it's like a one-shot thing. So it's really important that you get it right that one time. So we'll offer College Board offers training for their STCs, proctors, and their support staff. For WIDA assessments, Jen can let you know, and as many of you are trying to get ready to start doing your WIDA AMS training, it's specific to 4 different domains, and it's divided up by grade, like groups. And so you have to get your certification and make sure that you understand how to test the children, and then also what's expected and how the test kind of works. And then finally, iSprout training is for iSprout staff, supporting staff, and the data managers. So, and then we'll have, like I said, every test that we give out, we'll have some sort of a little pre-test just to give you a heads up of what it is so that you can train your staff so the kids do the best that they can. Okay. And now I'm going to turn it, oh, no, I'm not. I'm so close. Nope. Also, let's talk about, this is the Indiana Assessment Policy Manual, and you can get to it digitally on our Indiana Assessments webpage. I keep a copy myself that I have printed off and just highlighted some of the things because there's some important information in there. The code of ethics, the roles, the different roles of people within your school district and what it's expected of them. And then there are also some essential forms that you're going to need to be aware of. So things like the test irregularity report is in there, the assessment monitoring checklist when there's an open window. I come into the buildings, it's kind of a random thing. I have a certain number that I'm supposed to go in and monitor. And what I'm going to be asking you and what I'm going to be looking for is exactly what's on the assessment monitoring checklist. There's no hidden agenda here. These are the questions I'm going to ask. This is what I'm going to ask to see. Also, if there's any kind of a concern that needs to be reported, like a testing violation or some sort of social media breach or something like that, those forms can also be found in the assessment policy manual. So it's just a good idea to kind of maybe, put some little sticky notes here and there so you know what's in there. And now I get to turn it over to Kenzie.
Okay, so excuse me. Now we're just going to review some of the upcoming program deadlines for September. So if you do have any questions over these, please feel free to email our inbox, and I can send that on to the appropriate program lead. Okay, so as many of you know, these deadlines are coming up. They've been mentioned in the listserv announcements on Monday mornings. But for the PSAT, which is coming up very soon, there is a material order deadline. So that does need to be placed in the test ordering system. If you want to look back at last Monday's listserv, there is some information on that. If you do have questions, there's also a resource for how to operate the test ordering system, but that is going to be due today. So if you have not done that, make sure that's done if that is an assessment that you are participating in. For WIDA, there is also a webinar which occurs tomorrow from 2 to 3. So that's pre-testing access for ELLs for new test administrators. If you do have any questions on that, you can feel free to ask Jennifer Wu as well, or send an email to the assessment inbox. But that's also been mentioned in the listservs as well, so you can find a link there. There is going to be a tide refresh for the school year this coming Monday. So that applies to iLearn, iRead3, and iAM. So updated SIS data will begin flowing. So you'll see, your new students for this year reflected in that. So that will be updated, every night via data exchange. So that's going to start flowing. If you do see any discrepancies, definitely talk to your data managers, or you can send us an email and we can try to resolve that. There's also another webinar for WIDA, which is next Tuesday. So that's another pre-testing webinar that's also included in the listserv. So if you have any questions or would like to join that, feel free to look at those. Another upcoming PSAT deadline, if you are participating, is next Thursday. So that is the bulk registration deadline. So if that's something you are participating in, feel free to email us with questions, or College Board, they can help as well. But that is going to be done at the corporation level. Additionally, we will have the systems readiness test available. So that's going to be Monday, September 26th. So that is for those Cambium assessments. You'll definitely want to complete that. There's also a survey that you have to fill out that indicates, how your corporation or non-public school operated during that. So please definitely ensure that you do take that. It's great to prepare for testing. The test administrator certification course that Tammy was talking about is going to be available September 26th as well. So that is just for iLearn and iRead3. There is a separate course for iAM. But if you do have test administrators for those two assessments, you can let them know that that will be available. It is continually available, but it just needs to be completed prior to the test window. There are a few more WIDA deadlines. So there's another pre-testing webinar that's going to be Tuesday, September 27th, and that's about ordering materials in WIDA AMS. So make sure to check that out. Jen Wu does also have monthly WIDA office hours. So if you haven't joined that yet, definitely make sure to check that out. She does go over monthly deadlines for WIDA as well, and a checklist. So information on how to join that is also in the listserv. So feel free to reference that. And then Friday, September 30th is the deadline to complete the WIDA Test Coordinator Designee form. So that's also in the listservs. That does allow CTCs to designate one other individual to serve as, their backup coordinator. Although it does come down to the CTC ultimately to complete the training and make sure everyone on the staff is properly trained. But that does allow them to receive the listservs for WIDA and assist in those ways. And of course, as Tammy did reference, test security training is due Friday, September 30th. So you just want to make sure everyone is trained. We don't need, your integrity agreements sent to us. Just maintain those on file locally.
Awesome. And so now we're going to turn it over to our director, Lynn Schimmel, who's going to talk a little bit about organizing for the assessment year. Lynn?
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, so next let's discuss organizing for the assessment year. If you haven't already, it's important to put together your communication and documentation plan. So first, it's important to keep records of everything. It starts with training prior to test administration. So administering the training and documenting completion, your test tickets, rosters, and accommodation lists. During administration, You'll need to keep track of test materials with the sign-in, sign-out process, test completion rates, and test irregularities. And then post-administration, you'll want to be following up on any issues, returning materials, and preparing for results. Second, it's important that you and your staff understand not only what's required to administer the assessments, but also the purpose of the assessment. Make sure you locate and review all manuals and share appropriate information with staff, including what they should also review in the manuals. Our listservs, IDOE website, and vendor websites contain lots of important information. Third, watch for deadlines and read listservs. In addition to weekly Dr. Jenner updates, which come out on Fridays, and our listservs, which come out on Mondays, our team also posts monthly email reminders with checklists, and many of our staff host office hours and question and answer sessions prior to, during, and post assessments. Fourth, it's your responsibility as the corporation test coordinator to ensure that your school test coordinators and other staff are trained and have the information they need. Listservs, test security, test administration, and other training must be communicated in a timely manner to avoid confusion and risk test security and/or student test invalidations. Plan the best way to update your school test coordinators and how the STCs will communicate with their staff. Some CTCs forward emails, others pull out key details and share during meetings, and some combine our listservs and highlight key details into weekly updates to their team. Number 5, it's important to plan out your year. We know that being a CTC is just one of your many roles, so start now, get a process, and build your communication, training, and test administration schedules. Monitor and ensure that all staff are completing the required training, whether it's facilitated by you or your STC, maybe special education staff for accommodations, or required online training such as pre-test workshops and the test administration certification courses. Also know the expirations of these trainings. Cambiums and College Board trainings are yearly, while typically WIDA has been every 2 years, but lately we've had a change in platforms, and so that's being adjusted. So it's important to watch for updates and know as the platforms continue to shift, training may have to be updated yearly, and then eventually it'll be the 2 years again. And then lastly, number 6, plan for communication with students and parents. Many schools include test administration windows on their school and district calendars, so parents know when not to schedule appointments or vacations. Communicate with parents and students about the purpose of the test, what it measures, and how your school intends to use the results. And finally, communicate results promptly and allow parents the opportunity for rescores. All of the components that I shared should be part of your required local test policy. So here are some examples to get you started on thinking about how you might structure your documentation. First, on the upper left is a HyperDoc or a Google Doc with lots of links. This is the method I used for my CTC or for my STCs. It was continually updated as listservs, updates, and manuals were released. It included links to agendas that could be referenced, scoring materials, instructional pieces, and other important information. It was their go-to. How will your building staffs locate information? Consider a Google folder to update with weekly updates, training materials, manuals, rosters, and other information related to testing. As you consider your system to house these materials, ensure that secure materials related to ensure that secure materials or FERPA protected information is secure and private. Remove any links to secure materials and FERPA protected information immediately after testing. Whether a meeting is virtual or in person, you need to consider how you'll document attendance and keep record of training. Consider a Google form to track the attendance with a date and timestamp, and questions similar to an exit slip in a classroom to check for understanding and verify that staff members have what they need to administer the assessment properly.
Awesome. So now's the part of the show, boys and girls, where you can call in and talk to your favorite actor. No, I'm just kidding. Like, do you guys have any questions, or do you have anything that you want to bring up for discussion points? I've noticed in the chat there has been some questions that have been asked, and I think that IDOE staff has kind of been watching it and checking it. But if you had a question that you wanted to voice, you can unmute or you can put it in the chat, however works best for you.
Hi there. I threw one. This is Wendy Smedley for office, and we've filled out the CTC form, but I'm not getting the Monday listservs. They are still going to the superintendent instead of who had this position previously. So he's still able to forward them to.
Right. But we need to get you on that list. Yeah.
Hi, Wendy. I will go ahead and check right after this meeting, and I'll make sure that you're on that email list. If you are and haven't been receiving them, I would also check your spam. If that's not the case, I'll go in and make sure that you're able to be successfully added. So yes, I will definitely make sure of that right after this meeting. So thank you for bringing that up.
Nope, thank you. I'm getting everything else from DOE, so I'm not sure that it's unless it's just truly a separate. I'll check my spam, but I think I've done that before and I haven't seen anything in there.
Okay.
But I appreciate you looking.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the iLearn ECA biology, if a student is taking it as a recovery credit, especially if they've transferred into us, I can't always find record from the previous school if they were administered the first time, if they ever took the biology, or maybe they took biology the first semester, passed it, but failed the second semester. I don't have any proof that they took the iLearn biology. So is it on Learning Connection, or is there a platform that we can search standardized scores?
So scores can be found in Learning Connection, and so that should be updated with that information. When our ORS, the online reporting system that you're used to for iLearn, IM, and iRead3, that will be, when that comes out, if you have rostered your students, you should be able to go back and find previous results that way as well.
And that's in the iLearn portal that we currently have, is what you're saying. If they're rostered in there, then I would be able to have access to their test scores that way.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
There have been a few questions in the chat, Tammy, about the system readiness test, or the SRT. So I just wanted to jump in and clarify for everyone. The systems readiness test is not required. We make it optional for schools, especially if you're a school that has successfully tested online in the past. You really just may not need to complete that at all. The purpose of the SRT is for new schools or schools that have had significant updates to their systems in some way, maybe just completely got new devices or a new internet service provider, new filter system, something like that, and you want to check and make sure all your settings are correct. So as far as time to complete it, it's going to be open and available starting September 26th, and it's just going to be there for you all the way until the end of May. So if you're going to test maybe iRead3 on a group of devices that are brand new and you just want to do an SRT right before iRead3 and you want to do that in January, that's fine. If you want to do something in October and make sure everything's ready, that's fine. The survey is just going to ask, we just want to know if you plan to do one or not. And It's not asking you like when are you going to do it or giving you a deadline or anything like that.
Thank you, Mary.
I can answer a couple of the other questions from Anne. How long do we need to keep our signed test integrity agreement forms and the sign-in logs and such? The recommendation is really 3 years, no fewer than 3 years. Unfortunately, sometimes there's issues that arise and we need to go back and do some research with you as far as who may have been trained and, just through some of our test security investigations. So you do need to keep those on file for 3 years. Another one was from Lisa Kern about the new science standards and when they will be assessed. So recently the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, were released. The assessments for this school year will continue to be assessed over the previous standards, and then the NGSS will be assessed the following year in the spring of 2024.
I see that Linda Williams had a question about whether the test security and integrity agreement was like digital. What I've noticed in some of my monitoring that other CTCs do is that they upload it into some sort of like a Google form where when your staff logs in to that form, then they read it and they, consent and they sign it digitally. And then when I come in and I say, hey, can I see your agreements? They're able to print an Excel sheet from that has a digital timestamp that lets me know that on this date at this time, this person read and signed the integrity agreement. And yes, that works just as well as having 100 different pieces of paper that we flip through. Just make sure when you set it up that you have a space for them to type in their name, but also what their position is, because we want to make sure that it's teachers, secretaries, food service, custodians. We need to know who it is that's signing this agreement so that we can account for everybody. But yes, you can 100% use some sort of a digital platform like that, as long as it has some sort of a timestamp that lets us know the date and time. Are there any more that we've missed? Trying to scroll.
There is a question about bulk registration for the different PSAT assessments by Allison. Really, Allison, that bulk registration, it's up to you if you want to complete it for PSAT 8-9 and even for PSAT and MSQT. So the clarification that maybe will help is the state contract will provide all of the cost, assistance, and support for bulk registration for PSAT and MSQT for your grade 10 and 11 students. So when you're doing the bulk registration for that, there's no fee, but I know that College Board charges a fee for bulk registration for their programs, and so the PSAT 8-9 is not a state contract, but I know you can get the funds for that through the formative grant. So if you've done that and you want to pay, I think it's like $100 or something, there's usually plenty of funds available. So that's completely up to you. The state will pay for the bulk registration for your 10th and 11th graders for the NMSQT version, but the other one, you can kind of decide what you want to do with that. I think College Board does let you do just one file for both if you want, but they also should allow you to complete 2 separate ones.
Awesome. I see a question from Nicole. She says, my corporation has already submitted the CSV file for pre-ID labels. Because we've had some late transfers, they were not included in the file. Can we just complete pre-administration with those students? I'm not sure if, I don't know what you're talking about. Is that for WIDA or is that just like in general? Lynn or Mary, would you guys know?
It's for the PSAT.
Oh, okay. So what's the answer then?
Oh, I see. So you've submitted the bulk registration, the CSV for those pre-ID labels. And yeah, you'll always have some students that kind of, I guess not always, but most of the time you'll see those transfer students, and you can just complete the pre-administration or just have them bubble or do that when they come in to test.
I see another question in the chat from Zachary Tanner. He's asking about the difference between the use of text to speech for all items versus text to speech for items not including reading comprehension. And he was sharing that some of his special ed coordinators are having a hard time deciding which accommodation is appropriate, in each situation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. So definitely using the resource that can be located in the accessibility and accommodations information, the questionnaire. I know you stated that they have been referring to that. This accommodation is appropriate for relatively a small number of students to meet their particular needs. The case conference committee should also look at, other diagnostic assessments and information to help make that decision of whether or not that accommodation is appropriate for that student. So just encouraging them to make consistent, appropriate, defensible decisions. And it's really based on individual need of the student. And Zach, I'm more than happy to connect with you after this meeting to talk more in depth about this as well. If you have any other follow-up questions, maybe more specific to some students that your team may be struggling to, to come to a decision on. So I'm more than happy to connect after this meeting as well.
I can respond to Aaron's question around iLearn results. So it varies. Some districts do mail them. Some have their students carry them home. I know a couple, Linda and Kim, have shared that they send theirs through a secure document delivery. So a secure email, often password protected, where parents can go on and review those results. What does timely mean? It's important to get the results out as soon as possible. For the iLearn assessments, there's a rescore window. And so there is, a short window of time where, students have, or not students, the parents have that opportunity to come in and review those open-ended writing prompts, those types of items, to see if they believe, along with discussions with you, if those items should be rescored. So it's important that that deadline isn't missed. I read 3, it's important that parents get that information right away. The results may be discussed in case conferences or, determinations about specific interventions or possibly, promotion and what that next school year looks like. So sometimes it may not be the best thing to wait till the next school year just because of some of those other determinations that need to be discussed.
Allie, we have a question from Christy. How do ELL accommodations transfer to iLearn and iRead?
So if you utilize Indiana ILP, any accommodations that are indicated in a student's ILP are then transferred in the nightly file into Tide. So you should be able to see those reflected. And if you update those, it should take 24 hours to reflect correctly in Tide. So one important thing to know, if you do not see the appropriate or correct accommodations in Tide, going back and making sure that everything is indicated correctly within the ILP, just to make sure that there's no test irregularities that could possibly happen due to a student being withheld accommodations that are indicated on their ILP. And if you ever have any questions on ILP accommodations, definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to help.
And I'm sorry, if you don't use Indiana ILP, that will transfer through data exchange from your student information system. So you'll want to make sure you have that system up to date, especially if you're not using the IILP system. If you're a smaller non-public that doesn't connect to data exchange yet, they do have a manual some kind of form that can be done to get those accommodations in.
Thank you, Jen. Michelle Walden had a question about receiving student score labels for student files. Is that something that they receive labels, or is it something that's just downloaded within the reporting system?
So Jen, you may need to answer for WIDA. For iLearn, IM, and iRead3, it used to be that you received those labels and score reports. We no longer send those out to schools. So there is a way, I think it's in the test tools. Maybe somebody else on the line remembers, but you can print those. It's the same area where you're printing the test tickets that you can download those labels.
Yeah, and for WIDA, there are no labels. The individual student reports you do receive from the initial reporting. I think those came the end of April this past year. It's important to remember that those are the initial reports. So if you have anyone who's impacted by data validation, maybe a report needed merged, they don't send new reports. You have to access those from WIDA AMS. And then all reporting is also from the initial and the final are in WIDA AMS.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions? I haven't seen anyone pop up in the chat. If you guys think of any questions after our meeting is over, you can always send an email to the DOE assessments. We'll have when we get finished with this discussion and questions segment, the next 2 slides, the first one will be DOE resources on how to get in touch with us. There you go, Kenzie, thank you. So you can always send us something to the Indiana assessments at doe.in.gov, and we'll make sure that it gets to the right program lead. You can also contact the Office of Data Reporting. It shows you the phone number and all that good stuff. If you need help with Cambium or getting into their test administration things or what have you, or Moodle, we've tried to provide all of that contact information. I do see some things popping up in chat. So
can we go through that label again? Is it in the ORS to be able to print those labels? I still haven't found that on a way to actually print them. So are you looking, just to clarify, are you trying to print the labels that would have the student information like you would put on a test book? Is that the label you're talking about, or? No, I'm talking about when they actually get their scores back. We used to get a nice label that had all 3 scores, or if they had the 2 different scores on one label for their permanent files. We didn't receive those. So I was able to create them, but I couldn't create them in an efficient way to get all of their scores onto one label. I had to print off 3 different labels or 2 different labels. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now in the online reporting system that we've been using, the only 2 ways to pull the student score data is in the PDF, which is the individual student, and then the Excel or CSV version, which is, everybody kind of all their scores. And so that sounds like probably how you were able to create the sticker labels, which we haven't been creating anymore due to so many corporations telling us that they don't use them and they were throwing them away. So I know for the online reporting system, there's not an efficient way, like you were saying, to pull and just print those score stickers. But I think you'll start seeing that we're going to be moving to a new version of the reporting system. It's just called CRS instead of ORS. It has a lot of new features, new ways to look at things. So I think that's something we can look into to see if that'll be it. There will be a way that we could easily print those this year. Okay, thank you. That would be very helpful.
And while we were on this, I saw somebody had a question that they thought was silly, and it's not a silly question at all, about manuals and whether or not they're secure, because that can be a tricky question. So it depends on how you're using the word manual. If it's just the test administrator's manual or the TAM, that are the directions that the teacher reads to all the students, and we post that on our portal on the website.
That is not secure, and that's why we can post it on the website. There's no secure content. But sometimes teachers might use the word manual to also refer to the read aloud script that can be printed and then used to provide the read aloud accommodation to students who are taking the paper assessment. And those scripts have the actual test questions in them because you're reading the test out loud to the student as their accommodation. So those are definitely secure. Those need to be checked in and checked out through the secure process, shredded, just cared for exactly like they are a test form because they have the whole test form in them. And the student test tickets, we would consider those secure because it has both their name and their STN, which the combination of those two things is FERPA protected. So yeah, you want to keep that as secure materials.
So you'll want to have those signed in or signed out and signed in with some sort of a data tracking that every morning the teachers would come in and they'll sign out what they need and you have them counted and initial that, I got 15 test tickets. And then when they bring them back, they shouldn't have 14. You make sure that they return 15 because we need to find that one.
I see a question about making sure that accommodations are assigned correctly for each student for their test. So yes, a student who has accommodations indicated within their IEP or ILP, ensuring that everything is saved correctly. There is on Moodle an Indiana IEP accommodations course that I highly recommend that everyone looks at. It does discuss how to ensure that you are saving that information correctly so that it is reflected in TIDE. And it is automatically assigned in TIDE. So if you have text-to-speech indicated correctly and saved correctly in the IEP, it should display correctly in TIDE as well. But like I said, if you see something that is not indicated correctly or it's missing or something is saved and it shouldn't be saved, definitely do not proceed with testing until that is corrected within TIDE or in the IEP or ILP. But yes, if everything is indicated correctly in a student's educational plan, then it should be transferred correctly into TIDE. I hope that answers that question. I also do see a question about Section 504 students. So those accommodations, I know last year we used the STN Application Center. This year, students with Section 504 accommodations, that does need to be indicated correctly within your SIS. So it will be a data exchange upload rather than submitting the in the STN Application Center. And more information regarding that will be made available. Right now, our data team is still working to make that available for schools. So definitely be on the lookout for more information in the coming weeks.
I see a question around the good cause exemptions. We will still be collecting that information, but it will be through data exchange instead of the IR report that you're used to. That's not available yet, so I just encourage you to keep watching for the information as to when and how to upload that into data exchange. I know we've had a few presentations lately and some information in listservs around good cause exemptions and keeping that information at the local level. So what we're just meaning is sometimes that list gets lost. So just making sure that you have it. If your student information system has a way to keep that information in there, but what we don't want you to lose sight of that information so that when data exchange is open and available to take that information that you have it available to you. So that's what was meant by that local level. We'll also have some information coming out around good cause exemption decision making. We did a webinar last week that some of you may have attended, but it's kind of like a flow chart for decision making of when to apply a good cause exemption, and then different instructional strategies and things that go along with that, as well as how that impacts the reading plans that are submitted.
Kinsey, will you go ahead and do the vendor resources slide, just in case anybody needs to write down that information? while you're thinking of more questions, these are our vendors that provide our tests for us. So if you have a problem or a question about WIDA, you can call the client services, DRC customer service, or you can, go through the WIDA web pages and maybe what you're looking for, you'll get more clarification there. Also, College Board for the SAT and the PSAT, they have a help desk that you're more than welcome to contact, and they also have a testing webpage. And then iSprout, the K-Ready system, you can get to that website and it'll give you more information. Or you can call us. I'm just saying, you have options.
There's a question around the test tickets and that they're laminated and are they able to be saved and reused? I hadn't thought about that before. I think that would definitely be fine to do as long as you have that secure storage. I guess I would just caution you though, as a new assessment, comes up and it's time to get those rosters ready and you're checking for accommodations. It may be that some students may have had a case conference in between those assessments. So I guess I would just make sure to verify that everything is still accurate with those test tickets.
I do see a question about WIDA pre-ID label information and when that will be pulled. Your language, what was previously known as language minority, I think they're calling it multilingual learner report this year. That count date is September 30th this year, so that data starts getting processed throughout October and into November. I'm not sure the timeline on how long that will take. I know last year there were some delays with data exchange being implemented, but I think we have a set date of November 1st for the pre-ID label information being pulled, but it really will be any time between November 1st and probably November 15th, give or take a few days, because it'll depend on when all of that EL data is processed and confirmed and verified. But usually by mid-November is when we have to get it to DRC in order for it to populate in the system in time. So it'll happen sometime before mid-November.
There's a question around ISTEP for fifth-year seniors. So the last administration of ISTEP took place last year. So ISTEP is no more. If a school still has a fifth-year senior that does need, that high school assessment to qualify for a waiver or to pass the assessment, those students are expected then to take the March SAT. And if you have any more questions on that, you can always contact the Grad Pathways team.
Someone asked where this recording will be. We will have it in Moodle in the test coordinator's corner. And then also there will be a link in the listservs that go out.
And then as a follow-up to students who enroll after that data is submitted for WIDA access. So if you have any students who aren't included in that initial pre-ID upload, you will just add them manually in WIDA AMS, and that opens this year on November 30th. Yeah, November 30th. It's usually December 1, but up one day this year. So you can go in there starting that day to check to see who's added, and if you're missing anyone, if anyone enrolled later, and you just add those in and they'll be ready to go.
And Tammy, I know you said that this recording will be made available. Will a PDF version of the slides be made available as well, along with the recording in Moodle? I think we've had a few questions regarding that as well.
I believe, Kinsey, is that something that we can do?
Yes, yeah. So we will have the recording, and I'll also include a PDF of all of the slides so you can click the links and everything like that. So yes, definitely.
And when we're done with this call, we will go through the chat just to make sure that we saw all of the questions and we're able to address them. I know some people have had to drop off during this time, and so we'll make sure that we contact you personally because it tells us who's asking the question, and then we'll send you an email or give you a call and follow up with you if your question wasn't addressed in the chat. But I really am very appreciative of everybody who has who came to play with us today. Like I said, we will be meeting once a month on Wednesdays from 9 to 10, and we will post in advance in the listservs when those meetings are going to be, send out in an email to you. If you have other people in your building who deal with testing or support you in any way, and you would like for them to be part of our little group and learn more about what it is that we're doing here, you're more than welcome to let us know, and we'll add them to our list. If you guys have a specific topic or concern that you would like for us to address in our next meeting in October, please feel free to send us an email and let us know at the DOE assessments, and we'll be happy to put that on the agenda and see if we can get somebody in here to maybe speak to that topic. Okay, because that's what we're here for. We're here to support you guys, so you tell us what you need and we'll do our best to accommodate that. All right, anybody else have anything they want to say before we log off?
Tammy, what is the date of the October meeting? That was a question in the chat.
That is a great question. I have no idea. Kenzie?
I don't think we have locked down a specific date, but definitely looking more towards October 12th or the 19th. I think the Wednesday time from 9 to 10 seems to be the best time for everyone. So we'll probably do one of those two dates, but we can put that in the upcoming listserv once that is decided. So.
And we'll look around too. Well, we can't do October 12th because Jenna just said that's the PSAT. I'm a little worried that the 19th might hit some people on fall break, because I know that that's something we need to be cognizant of. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and we'll get it in. Like I said, if you're not able to join, we will always post it in the TCC and then also in the listservs, so you'll be able to see what you missed if you aren't able to make it.